Thank you very much, Chancellor Brogan.
Never heard him stop like that.
I think of that.
Speaker, we need you to come in more often. There'd be another 30 minutes.
And actually, Speaker, can you come over just one seat? Actually, we have a space for you in this chair.
Outstanding.
You have a tent card? A tent card for you, just in case people didn't know who you are. We got your name sitting right in front of you. We are so pleased, as I mentioned to you when we started this morning at 7, that we're very lucky today in that we were going to have the speaker come and visit with us today at around 11 o'clock. It's fortunate that we had this type of a relationship, with the speaker. I think that certainly we would like to consider ourselves as his legislative partner, and that we together are going to work on very important issues we think that are important to our state as a whole, and certainly to our families and the students within our system. So with that, what we'd like to do is offer you an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to us, and if you wouldn't mind asking you a few questions. Great. We'd like to spend some time with you like that. So
fantastic, and Madam Chair and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I appreciate very much the work that you are doing, and in my conversations with many of you, with Chancellor Brogan, we are grateful for, I think, the vastly improved working relationship that we all have now. I think, and I hope, and if anything is to the contrary, I hope you'll tell me that both sides are living up to the settlement agreement, and that we're really working towards a broader common goal now of elevating our system and our universities through specialization. And I know I've had some passionate conversations with some of the presidents about this. We want to help you, and we need you to help us. All of that will require some degree of the expenditure of political capital on our part and on yours. We may have to reduce or prioritize good programs to fund the stellar programs. We may have to take a hard look at programs that previously were thought to be tremendous that 10 years down the road aren't. But we would only do that so that we can invest more heavily in the programs that turned out to be much better than anticipated, and preserving those programs that are successes and protecting our foundation. We are seeking your input. I'm here today, and again, I appreciate the Chair's opportunity to be here to say this is one of the most important things we do as a state, is educate our populace and our students. And I believe in it. My mom spent her whole career in K-12 education. I got my start as the student government lobbyist for the University of Florida, coming to Tallahassee in 1987, I think it was, which is a long, long time ago. Yes, exactly. That's right. And it's a good thing that was before they invented the internet or cell phone cameras, probably, but that's a whole other story. We are looking at the proposed legislation to empower the Higher Education Coordinating Council. We want your advice about defining and clarifying the primary missions of our post-secondary institutions. We're also looking at the legislation that you've proposed that is your priority, to delete the current exemption from the SUS summer term enrollment requirement for those students who've earned a minimum of 9 credits through the acceleration mechanisms. We want your priorities to do well this session. They are shared by us in that regard. The budget obviously is tremendously challenging. President Herodopoulos and I have the dubious honor of being the first president and speaker to really, really confront the economic shortfall of 2008, because we've had the federal stimulus money masking those impacts from a state budgetary standpoint. And the Revenue Estimating Committee just met last week and adjusted downward our revenue estimate again by another couple $100 million, give or take. So it's going to be difficult, but we want to give you as many tools as we can to help us solve our collective challenges. We in the House have talked about prioritizing the delivery of services to people over things and essentials over non-essentials. And I know that in tough times it is tempting, and you will hear, as I have heard, that every priority is essential, but some have to be viewed as more essential than others, because we don't have the funds, and our taxpayers didn't have the funds to fund every program, just like within your area, you don't have the area to fund every program you want. We've got to make those tough choices. I hope that by authorizing the 5% increase in tuition, we can generate an additional about $118 million and reduce the impact of the overall decrease in funding due to the budget shortfall. And we're also working to elevate the test score requirement for the Bright Futures scholarship program. That and anything else you want to put on our plate, we have a great appetite for your ideas and for the things that will better empower you to achieve the goals of your institutions and of the BOG. So with that, I'll stop, Madam Chair, and turn it over to you and do a couple of questions and then head back to the Capitol.
Great. Thank you very much. Actually, what I would like to do is, Charlie, I want you to start, because I think that we just passed some items that are really important to us based upon the current situation we're facing with PICO. And I think it's important that we share that with you. It's kind of hot off the presses for us, but we think it will be really important to the universities and something that we kind of had to do in order to adjust to our current financial situation. So, Charlie, if you wouldn't mind talking to the Speaker about that.
Mr. Speaker, you obviously are aware of the PICO situation. Not only does that funding provide us with new facilities, it also provides us with the maintenance funding, which is essential to us. One of the things that we will request, which will come through Governor Colson's committee later on, is to waive the requirements of Florida Statute 216.301 for 1 year to provide additional time to expend the fixed capital outlay appropriations. That also could be included to allow us to let each university reserve a portion of existing funding for projects that are underway, where they can do so for emergency repair purposes. We also would like to see the Legislative Budget Commission be authorized to fix capital outlay appropriations for repair and maintenance, which I don't believe they currently have that available. We also intend to amend our own regulations to provide broader funding authority for emergency repairs. What we are faced with, like all other state agencies, as Governor Brogan mentioned a little while earlier, when that leak occurs on the third floor, there's not much you can do about it. And what these are designed to do within existing guidelines is to provide us with a little bit more flexibility as we face potential emergency repair situations and maintenance.
Great.
And we certainly would appreciate your assistance in those efforts.
Absolutely. And I think you'll find a pretty broad receptivity to any idea like that. Again, it'll have to work through the process, but giving you increased flexibility and, again, increased tools in the toolbox to try and deal with those problems, we've got, again, a strong appetite for, and I think that makes it easier to help the system if the system is asking for smart policies that give you that capacity.
And it won't require any new taxes.
Bless you. Yeah, thank you.
Governor Stavros and then Governor Duncan.
Mr. Speaker, I've made this comment to the governor and also to the President of the Senate, and that is, as a businessman, I've been involved with foundations at Florida State and USF, and during my tenure we raised $600 million going to the business community and telling them what a great university system we have, great universities, great presidents, but also saying that we have a great state because the state has matching funds. And so I'm speaking on behalf of matching funds, because the business community said, we'll give money, and knowing that there's matching funds, we're happily doing it because we know our buck goes a long way. And so I have to speak on behalf of matching funds. If you can, I recognize the budget problems, but if there's any way to have matching funds for our universities, we would appreciate it.
No, and we appreciate that as I think perhaps a corollary business principle is, if you can leverage dollars, do it when you can. And that's one of the mechanisms where if someone will put money up and maybe entice contributions you otherwise wouldn't get, that improves the picture. So can't make any promises, but certainly I think the economic wisdom of private money and public money makes sense. We'll do our very best.
Governor Duncan.
Speaker Cannon, thank you for your points about kind of looking at how to do more with less, I think is the cliff notes I would take away from your opening comments. And I just wanted to know how seriously we've been taking that. And I think we are always trying to find the balance between local autonomy and cutting them loose to go do what they need to do with where is there a value add role from a system-wide perspective. And I think on the coordination on academic programs is an area where we've really struck a good balance on that. Our institutions between 07 and 09 have closed 100 centers. I probably can't, I don't have the exact number, but 25 to 50 programs they have closed or put on inactive status, kind of going through and looking at just that. What was maybe a good thing at one time that's not as good now, what's not a necessity, making very tough decisions on their campuses. We have really begun a program to really look at, and it's really being driven by our provost because it's complicated. Just because something's low enrollment or doesn't have a high degree productivity doesn't mean it doesn't have a tremendous value to our system. And so, how do we craft something that hits that right balance? And so, really, the answer is our provosts know the most as our chief academic officers. They've been working with our staff, and we've really been going through looking at how many programs we have in multiple places, what is the enrollment mix, and really now starting to take a system view that they have really helped kind of pull together. We have deadlines and timelines and different things that we're doing that I think we can, obviously the staff can give you more information on, but you'll be very pleased with the direction that it is happening. It's not, we're not just starting it, it's been happening.
Well, and thank you for that, and we have to do that at the state budgetary level. You were probably in an analogous position to us, which is we've picked all the low-hanging fruit. All the easy things to weed out or to not fund or to cut have been done. They were done years ago. We're now choosing between good programs and better programs, and so that's very painful. It takes a lot of work, and one of my themes from the House perspective is the devil's in the details. We shouldn't be persuaded or misdirected by slogans or, well, just because it's old or just because it's this or that, do away with it. You've got to look at the real value on a case-by-case basis, and so I appreciate how hard that is, but thank you for doing it because we have no choice. We've got to do that, but it makes it a lot easier for us to support you when you're doing that great work, and so we appreciate that, and we know it isn't easy.
Thank you.
Governor Rood?
Speaker, I'll tell you what I told the Senate President this morning. I'm glad I don't have your job. But with that said, the first thing I wanted to mention is just to add on to what Governor Duncan said, and I've been very impressed with how these universities are working together, and the easy stuff is gone, and now it's changing the paradigm on how we deliver and what we do and how we look at things. So we're really moving in the right direction there. The other point I wanted to make is our relationship with the universities. We're looking for opportunities to become efficient in that relationship and make sure we're not requiring, as the Board of Governors, things that may not be adding value, may not be creating excellence, and trying to eliminate those. And I would like you all to consider, after the session, ways that we can evaluate what the legislature is requiring of us in the university system, and I think there are some opportunities there to eliminate items that maybe not that perhaps are not contributing to that excellence that we all desire. I mentioned this also to the Senate President, and I don't know how we would work that, but I think there's an opportunity there. And I'd like you to comment on the issue regarding the tuition rate. And I hate looking at percentage increase because people hear that and they think we're increasing tuition by that, but or increasing overall cost of the education by that amount. But in reality, we're just changing the mix. We've got discussion going that there may be a 5%, a 10% increase in the base amount, and then differential going up some amount at a total amount of 15, or there's been talk about an amount in excess of that. What are your feelings, and where do you see that going?
Well, I think conversation about tuition, it's easy to get, again, focused too much on the numbers. You have to look at value. We are at incredible value. Our system is of value to students. The worth long-term, the real economic value of a degree from one of our institutions and the cost to get it is relatively low. So there isn't a one-size-fits-all, but we are, in essence, a bargain compared with other states. You always have to balance access and quality, and just like in the prioritization of programs, there isn't any perfect mix. But recognizing we offer a great value for a relatively speaking lower price, there's room to raise it. You just have to be very cautious about how you go about it.
Okay.
More?
Governor Hosseini? You're fine.
Sorry. I'm used to recognizing people. I see when you're the speaker, it jumps in. Madam Chair, sorry. Yeah.
Mrs. Speaker, we are, our board of governors, we are looking at quality and excellence, and one of the things we like to see is our nearest university to the numbers of universities, public universities out there. The closest one we have is number 17. And we really like to see that have at least one of our university be in top 10. And we think that brings job, that brings prestige, that brings quality to the rest of the workforce in our state. Well, as everything else, it costs. And we are the 48th lowest tuition state. If I understand right, and I don't want, I think University of Florida, like 96% of the students go to school for free because of the bright future and all that. So there is tremendous opportunity for us to maybe have additional income to the universities. I know we can't get it from the state. You know, you are under tremendous pressure. There should be a way that for us to be able to increase, and I am not suggesting or wanting to have more than the 15% increase that differential tuition we have, but perhaps to have a multi-year commitment to these universities that if they are looking for excellence and quality and bring us from 17 to number 10, that we, both the Board of Governors and the state legislators, be able to commit to them that we will give them a multi-year. If we don't give them 1 year 30%, but we will tell them that we will have them, they could have the 15%, so they know that if we are looking for quality, and this is an excellent time for them to hire, the best time to hire the best professors, so they can plan on it. Can you comment on that?
Absolutely, and it's something that I want to give a lot of credit to Representative Proctor, who has probably forgotten more about education than I will ever know. He and I spent a lot of time as we prepared for this, which is my final 2 years in the House, to talk about how can you do long-term planning when we have a Constitution that says you do an annual budget, a Speaker who's around for at best 22 months, and then the Speaker and the Senate President turn over. One of the things I'm working on with Speaker Designate Will Weatherford, who will follow me as Speaker, is sitting down with us, with you, and trying to create that pathway forward. Because you can't make any guarantee, but you can certainly chart out, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and then adjust it. We do that you do that at your institutions, we do that in other sectors, and so we're trying to do that voluntarily. There's no way you can organically make it happen, but we have a chain of a progression of leadership planned in the Florida House, at least, that has that in mind. Because if you don't have that, you can't make those long-term pivots that you need to achieve those kind of quality results over time. But again, we're trying to do that already, and that's one of the legacies I hope to leave, is have put in place and made some movement in a policy direction that those who follow after me can carry on, again, to the benefit of the system.
Governor Colson.
Mr. Speaker, following up on what Governor Hussaini said, my observation is good engineering and good chemistry and good biology is expensive, but great engineering and great chemistry is really expensive. And I think that we can impose upon our universities to come up with a plan that includes tuition increases and being more entrepreneurial and making cuts and raising more money. But I don't know if we can attain greatness without also some additional state support when the times get better. And the times are going to get better. I mean, if not this year or next year, maybe 2 years from now. And I would be hopeful that when times do get better, that if we can come back to you all with some plans that that allow some of our universities to attain greatness, not just good, that you all would be supportive of it.
No, completely. Well, and again, unfortunately, I'll probably be gone by then. By the time the state revenues turn around, depending on which economist you speak to, we may not have seen the beginning of the end, but we've seen the end of the beginning of the recessionary times. And my goal is to sort of play defense and make smart, tough decisions now during the next 2 sessions. Hopefully we see a turnaround, but no matter what, when it occurs, it won't be rapid. Most of the economic folks you speak to say, hey, we're seeing signs of life in some sectors. Certainly, I agree, Governor Hussaini, with your comment that it makes sense to have one institution in the top 10. Happens to be my alma mater, but hey, that is what it is. That adds prestige to the system, but also by strengthening the core missions and the best of the best at each of the institutions, you can do that. We know that costs money, especially where the cost of the acquisition of faculty in some of those areas you mentioned is very high. We know that needs to be done, but you don't make a sharp turn when you're on a rain-slicked road. Right now, our economy's on a rain-slicked road. We're going to make gradual turns and keep our speed slow, and hopefully when the weather improves and the road straightens out, you can really press down on the accelerator.
Let me go Governor Beard and Governor Temple. We got last question. Governor Beard?
Mr. Speaker, one of the things this board is embarking on is a new strategic plan, which we hope will reach out multiple years. And in thinking about giving the university system a longer-term look at things, just like the legislature is going for, maybe, and this is an idea that I haven't talked to everybody about, but maybe having the legislature buy into this plan will give us and the universities a long, more than a one-year look at how they do their planning. What's your sense of that?
I think that's a great idea. I was speaking with somebody who happens to be in the utility industry yesterday, and I said, how are we doing on power generation capacity? Because it takes years to build a power plant depending on the magnitude. And he said, we have a rolling 10-year plan, and you adjust population estimates and demographics and economics, and each year, you drop last year and you add one more. So it's a long-term plan, but you look at it regularly. A model like that, I think, makes great sense, and if we're not doing it, we ought to be, because it's not a perfect analogy, but we can see where there are some sectors of the economy or maybe some industries where they're going to need a lot of a certain sector, or where we can specialize, make some specialty calls now that will take 4, 5, 10 years to implement.
Right.
But I think it's a great idea.
Governor Temple?
Yeah, I know. We've talked about tuition, and we've got a great product, and it's oversubscribed, and we should raise it. But
well said.
But on Bright Futures, I know this has been a kind of a giveaway program. We've increased the standards. Is there any thought about having a means test for this, so we can get some of that money from these kids that have parents that can clearly send them through the University of Florida or whatever? And a lot of my friends who have kids here have said, look, we shouldn't be paying. They shouldn't get a free education. So, is there any discussion about that?
There absolutely is, and too soon to tell. It's week 3, which means with 5 or 6 weeks left, that's an eternity in terms of legislative session. So, too soon to tell how that turns out. I agree with you. It's a tremendous benefit to folks. A lot of folks who don't need it, some who do, and I think that topic again. But it's also one of the few things that benefits a lot of students. It's one of the last benefits out there. So you have to be careful when tinkering with it. But I think we're looking at it. And again, I think our team in the House and I think their colleagues down in the Senate are taking a good hard look at that.
We have one final question from Governor Tripp.
Mr. Speaker, last year I was the only one that voted against a tuition increase. I think I've had a little change of heart. What the universities did is they made need-based, they elevated it. So I think we can say to the population that when we raise it to a certain level, those people who may not fall under the Pell level, but who may be lower middle class, that we're going to provide a way for those people to have the funding. I'm not so sure that it's not time for us to consider allowing some of our universities to come out from under the one-size-fits-all tuition plan and allow some of the other universities, if they can make the case for it and if they wish to do it, to be able to deal with their tuition as the market will bear. When you have FAU now with 20,000 students applying for 2,500, the numbers at UCF and the others are enormous. I think we do have to make a recognition that we probably need to allow them to price it right, and we need to make sure that we keep the community college and now the state college level open and available, and make it clear that 2 + 2 will never go away, so that anybody still can access the University of Florida or UCF or FSU or anywhere else. If we can start that process, I think we can take our whole system to greatness. And it's clear FAU would not raise their tuition to the same extent that the University of Florida could, just because of the pressure of the students coming to the door. But I hope we can get that conversation started. I think we're going the wrong way. We did have the differential tuition, and then we allowed pressure to make it available for everybody, which really meant that the universities are telling us, and probably telling the legislature, we know what our product's worth. Help us to price it so that everybody can make it without all the budgetary problems. Thank you.
I totally agree. I mean, I think that's you have to look at it, and again, there's no perfect price point, and it's a state subsidized product in education from university, and I think it is oversubscribed, and I think that there is a tremendous value, and to the extent we can, without sacrificing access, raise it, they ought to be able to do that, and so I basically agree with those sentiments.
Chancellor Brogan.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. You've always been a great friend and a great leader in the legislative process, even before you became Speaker of the House. I agree with you. I think we're looking at a long-term turnaround economically. But one of the things that this board, as a matter of fact, we're going to begin this conversation a little later today, is trying to get their arms around, along with our friends in the Florida State College system, K through 12, pre-K through 12 system, and the ICUF schools, et cetera, working with the Higher Ed Coordinating Council, is what should our system of higher education look like 25 years from now? A long-term view of how many universities we're going to need, where would they be, what would our college system look like and be available to, and that will take place on your watch. We will be coming forward later on next year with a full-scale proposal, working with this board, the State Board of Education, and others through the Higher Ed Coordinating Council, to really try to lay out a roadmap for where Florida needs to go over the next quarter of a century. Because again, just trying to keep the doors open today is hard enough, but we've also got that responsibility to be able to look at issues of access and opportunity for this system for the next generation. And you all in the legislature are going to be critical partners to make sure that that we can accomplish that in the years to come. I think it will be a great vision. I think it's going to be handled with the participation of many, and the process we're going to begin to discuss this afternoon, I think, is going to provide us, among the Board of Governors and our institutions, a roadmap for how we want to participate in that process coming up. But again, as always, thank you for your time, and more importantly, thank you for your continued leadership. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So as far as our schedule, what I think we're going to do is we're going to take 30 minutes for lunch right now and plan to reconvene at about 12:15. Okay? Lunch is right outside there under the tent. If you go out there, I think they have enough for everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all back in at 12:15. Thank you very much.